So there's been a bunch of exciting buzz around Spider-Man: A New Day lately, and one of the biggest talking points is what it means for Zendaya's MJ. Ever since that first piece of news dropped confirming that she's officially returning for the next Spider-Man film, fans have been going wild with theories. The real question everyone seems to be asking is whether this movie could finally be her turning point. And honestly, it's starting to look like it might be, because even though her role might be smaller this time around, there are hints that MJ could be stepping into something completely new, maybe even becoming Spider-Woman herself. It's not that far-fetched when you think about how Marvel and Sony have been blending comic book storylines into the MCU lately. They love pulling threads from different universes and reworking them to fit the main timeline. That's exactly why so many fans believe Spider-Man: A New Day could take inspiration from stories like those found on Earth 19529, where the character of Claire Parker becomes Spider-Woman. In that version, Claire's story mixes ideas from Spider-Man Life Story and other arcs like the Ultimate Spider-Woman run, creating a new kind of legacy hero. Claire's not just Peter's daughter in that universe. She inherits his sense of responsibility, his moral compass, and his courage, stepping up to protect her family when he's away. In those comics, Claire puts on the red and white Spider-Woman costume, the same one originally designed for the ultimate version of the character. And what's cool is how her journey unfolds over real time, something that Spider-Man Life Story played with beautifully. From the early 1960s all the way to 2019, it's like we get to see Peter Parker and his world grow older along with the readers. By the time Claire becomes Spider-Woman, Peter's already deep into his superhero duties, even heading off to space to face Dr. Doom alongside Miles Morales. Meanwhile, Claire stays behind to look after her younger brother Benny and their mother Mary Jane. That kind of dynamic feels emotional and grounded, a family that keeps pushing forward even when separated by impossible challenges. And that's exactly the kind of storytelling that could translate beautifully into the MCU. Because when you look at Zendaya's version of MJ, she already shares a lot of the same traits that made characters like Claire Parker stand out in the comics. She's strong, independent, and doesn't let fear dictate her choices. Throughout Tom Holland's Spider-Man trilogy, MJ evolved from a distant, sarcastic teen into someone deeply loyal and compassionate. Her arc in No Way Home showed that growth more than ever, especially in those final moments when Peter chose to let her forget him to keep her safe. Even though that decision broke both of their hearts, it left MJ standing at a powerful crossroads, one where she could finally grow into her own identity, free from Peter's shadow but still inspired by his spirit. So when people started talking about Spider-Man: A New Day potentially giving MJ a heroic turn, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's the kind of natural character progression that fits both the tone of the MCU and Zendaya's acting range. She's proven she can handle emotional depth, subtle transformation, and strength without losing vulnerability. So giving her a role where she takes on something more active, like becoming Spider-Woman or finding herself caught up in a world of heroes and villains again, would just make sense. Now, a bunch of fans started getting excited when the Spider-Man Brand New Day set photos came out, especially after some early reports hinted that Zendaya was spotted filming key scenes. These photos showed her back on set, possibly at a cemetery, which instantly sparked speculation. Some think she and Peter might have an emotional reunion there, maybe while Peter's visiting Aunt May's grave. Even if MJ still doesn't remember who he is because of the spell from No Way Home, it's possible she ends up there for a completely different reason and fate just pulls them together again. That kind of moment would be powerful because it could subtly hint that their connection runs deeper than memory. And even though it's been reported that MJ will have a smaller role this time around, that doesn't mean she won't have an important one. Sometimes the most pivotal scenes in a story aren't about how much screen time a character gets, but what they represent when they appear. If this really is the start of MJ's next chapter, maybe setting up her future as Spider-Woman or someone influenced by the multiverse events, it would make perfect sense for Marvel to play it slow. After all, they've been building this universe for over a decade, and everything they introduce now usually pays off in some later phase. It's also worth remembering that Zendaya's filming schedule is stacked. She's expected to be shooting Dune Part 3 around the same time as Spider-Man: A New Day, which could explain why her role in this film might be limited. But limited doesn't mean unimportant. It could mean that Marvel's carefully planning her next step, planting seeds for something bigger later, maybe even her own storyline or appearance in another crossover film. So the smaller role might just be setting the stage for her to become something more than just Peter's lost love. What makes this especially interesting is how the MCU has been experimenting with multiverse ideas. Because with Across the Spider-Verse showing audiences so many different spider people, it's totally possible that Spider-Man: A New Day could introduce new versions too. Maybe MJ becomes connected to a variant of herself who's already Spider-Woman in another dimension. Imagine Zendaya playing both her regular MJ and a version who has spider powers. It would be an incredible showcase of her range and give fans something truly unexpected. Another reason this theory feels believable is how No Way Home ended. It left Peter completely alone, but with a renewed sense of purpose. The spell erased everyone's memories of him, but it didn't erase who those people are deep down. So even though MJ doesn't know him anymore, there's still that emotional echo, a lingering feeling that something's missing. If she starts experiencing strange dreams, visions, or déjà vu moments that hint at her past with Peter, that could lead her to investigate what's really going on. Maybe that journey exposes her to something connected to Spider-Man's world again, an experiment gone wrong, a symbiote, or a multiversal glitch that gives her powers. However it happens, it would feel poetic, like destiny bringing her full circle. Speaking of symbiotes, it's hard not to mention how the MCU now has that tiny piece of Venom left behind after No Way Home's post-credits scene. That detail wasn't random, it was clearly setting up something major for future Spider-Man movies. And what if, instead of immediately bonding with Peter, that symbiote finds MJ first? That could open up a fascinating new direction, turning her into a kind of female Venom or even a darker version of Spider-Woman. The duality between power and corruption, control and surrender has always been central to Spider-Man's stories, and seeing MJ face that challenge could add an emotional twist. Zendaya could easily pull off the intensity of someone battling both inner darkness and newfound strength. But no matter how her powers come about, whether through a scientific accident, a symbiote encounter, or a multiverse collision, the key theme would stay the same: growth. MJ's evolution has always been about finding her own voice and confidence. From the first movie's sarcastic outsider to the emotionally grounded woman in No Way Home, she's been constantly redefining herself. So this next chapter could show her realizing that she doesn't just want to observe the chaos around her, she wants to be part of the solution. Of course, the production side of things is still early. Set photos and behind-the-scenes hints only tell us so much. Marvel is keeping details about Spider-Man: A New Day tightly under wraps, especially regarding Zendaya's character. But the fact that she's confirmed to return at all means they still have something meaningful planned for her. It wouldn't make sense to bring MJ back just for nostalgia when her story clearly has more potential. Whether she and Peter reconnect, fight side by side, or even end up on opposite sides of a moral dilemma, it's bound to hit hard emotionally. And honestly, that's what makes the idea of MJ becoming Spider-Woman so appealing. It's not just about giving her superpowers, it's about completing a circle. She's always been Peter's grounding force, the one who sees him for who he really is beneath the mask. But this time, she could find out what it's like to wear a mask of her own, to feel that same responsibility, and to make those same impossible choices. The beauty of that story lies in the parallels it draws, both of them shaped by loss, love, and resilience. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.